He missed my performance. Said he was stuck at work. But I saw him, holding her, laughing like I never existed. Then she posted calling me the other woman. And he let the world believe her. I was hit by a scooter that night. No calls. No flowers. Just silence. But pain teaches you to rise. Now I'm not the girl in the wings anymore. I'm the name on the marquee. And this time the spotlight is mine. They say the stage never lies. Tonight it felt like that was true. As the final notes of our performance faded, I held my last pose, heart racing, lungs burning, and for a moment, just a brief, glittering moment, it felt like the world belonged to me. The curtain fell. Applause thundered from the audience, drowning out my heartbeat. Backstage, my fellow dancers hugged, squealed, cried. I smiled and nodded, accepting their congratulations like I was floating. I should have been happy. I should have been. But my fingers were already itching for my phone. Rayan had promised he'd come tonight. He said something about rearranging a hospital shift, but I believed him. He usually tried even if he was late. I sat on the dressing room bench, still in full makeup and open sweet potato. Just a quick scroll before I changed. I wish I hadn't. The first thing I saw was a notification. You've been tagged in a trending post. I frowned. Weird. I hadn't posted anything since this morning. I tapped the alert. A username I didn't recognize, @Sonia_17, sat at the top of the post. But it was the caption that slammed into my chest like a punch. My ex is now successful. If I want to get him back, does that make me the other woman? My mouth went dry. Below the caption was a photo. Cropped, filtered, deliberate. A man's hand resting casually on a wine glass, flicking a lighter. The angle was just right, just enough to show the edge of a designer cufflink and the ring. The ring. I knew it like I knew my own skin. I designed it. A simple brushed steel band with a tiny engraving inside, to light in dark places. Rayan wore it on his right hand. Every day. He said it made him feel grounded. My breath hitched. I zoomed in. It was unmistakable. Suddenly the words in the caption made sense. And so did the comments. 7 years of history versus some random dancer? You tell me who wins. He called her suitable for marriage. But when he talks about you, that man uses poetry. Go get your man back. True love doesn't care about timing. I scrolled further. There she was, Sonia, replying to almost every comment herself. We broke up because of circumstances we couldn't control. But we never stopped caring. He only called her suitable. That's not the same as love. People grow. He was mine before and now we're both adults. What's wrong with reconnecting? The air felt thin. I tried to swallow but my throat had turned into sand. And then I saw it. Rayan had replied. Just 2 words. Just enough to shatter something inside me. You're not. That was it. No emojis. No explanations. Just quiet permission. Quiet validation. He wasn't denying her. He was inviting her back in. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours, though it was probably seconds. My stage makeup felt too heavy suddenly, like it was suffocating me. The applause outside had faded. My phone buzzed again. A friend congratulating me on the performance. Another tagging me in a glowing review. None of it mattered. None of it could cut through the fog inside my skull. I opened Sonia's profile. The account was new. Just 3 months old. But already full of posts like a digital shrine. Memories, journal entries, snippets of old texts. All curated. All strategic. All painting her as the long-lost love fate had tried to erase. One post showed a high school graduation photo. Rayan was in it. So was she. Smiling. Close. Too close. He worked part-time through med school just to buy me a silver necklace, she'd written. I still wear it sometimes. Funny how love sticks to things. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I turned it off and stared at my reflection in the mirror. I looked perfect. Lip color unsmudged. Hair pinned tight. Skin glowing under powder and lights. But I didn't feel perfect. I felt erased. How many people had seen that post before I did? How long had she been posting about him? And why hadn't he told me? The betrayal didn't come with a bang. It came in whispers. Likes. Comments. Quiet words behind a screen. The ring on his hand wasn't a memory. It was a promise. One he'd made with me. And now it was her symbol again. My thoughts raced. Rayan told me he was busy with work tonight. That he couldn't make it to the show because of a schedule mix-up at the hospital. But, hadn't he mentioned a reunion earlier this week? With his high school friends? My heart sank. Suddenly, I wasn't sure if he was at the hospital at all. I grabbed my bag, barely bothering to remove my costume. My legs moved on instinct, every step echoing louder than the one before. I had to know. I had to see for myself if the man I loved, the man I trusted, was slipping away in silence, or if I was just too blind to notice he'd already left. I didn't even take off my stage makeup. I just wrapped my coat around myself and walked straight into the night, glitter still clinging to my lashes, the smell of stage lights and powder hanging on my skin like a question I couldn't answer. Rayan had lied. I wasn't a suspicious girlfriend. I didn't dig through phones or demand hourly check-ins. But tonight, I knew. Not in the way you think you know, no. I felt it in my bones. Something had shifted. Or maybe it had already shifted long ago and I was only now catching up. He told me he was working late. But my gut, my burning cheeks, and that damn ring in the photo told a different story. So instead of heading home, I rerouted to the restaurant he mentioned earlier in the week. Just a reunion dinner, he'd said. The guys from high school. Nothing serious. He didn't know I remembered the name he dropped in passing. Amaro's. Some upscale fusion place tucked behind the Riverwalk. It was nearly 10 p.m. when I arrived. The lobby was empty, save for a bored-looking hostess checking her phone. 2 private rooms still had guests, lights spilling from beneath the sliding wooden doors, laughter rolling through the cracks. I stood quietly adjusting my scarf, my breath fogging in the cold air that clung even inside. Then I heard it, his voice. Muffled but unmistakably Rayan. Yeah, it's that dancer girl. My heart stilled. The one you mentioned last time? A guy replied, full of surprise. I thought she was just a phase. You used to hate those types, remember? All makeup, no plan. Always trying to take shortcuts in life. The laughter that followed was low and knowing. My fingers curled into fists inside my coat pockets. I stepped closer just enough to hear everything clearly. She's serious about dancing, Rayan replied. But his tone wasn't proud. It was tired. Maybe even irritated. But that kind of career, it's unstable. You know how it is. He wasn't defending me. He was making excuses for me. That stung more than silence ever could. And then her voice. Sonia. You knew I'd be here tonight, she said, her voice trembling with just the right amount of drama. You could have just told me beforehand. But no, you had to announce your wedding plans right in front of me. My chest tightened. There was the confirmation. She was here. And he had told her. Sonia, don't do this, Rayan said. It's not like that. Then what is it? She snapped. Was it not enough to hurt me? He had to parade it too? Just to make a point. The room went silent after that. Thick, aching silence. A chair scraped across the floor. Footsteps shuffled. I ducked into the hallway restroom just as the door opened. 2 of Rayan's old friends walked out, laughing lightly, oblivious to me. I stood by the sink, pretending to fix my hair. The makeup I'd once been proud of now felt like armor melting off my skin. The 2 guys lit cigarettes just outside the washroom entrance and started chatting casually. She still wants him, huh? One said. Obviously, the other scoffed. You know what's crazy though? I leaned in, barely breathing. A few nights before he brought that ballerina girl. What's her name, Austin? To meet us, Rayan got drunk. Called me up. Wanted to find Sonia. No way, the first one muttered. Dead serious. You know Rayan doesn't drink like that. He was wasted. Kept saying he wanted to marry her. Kept talking about how much he regretted letting her go. The cold from the hallway seeped under my skin, freezing me in place. That was the night, wasn't it? The night he stood outside my apartment, reeking of alcohol, holding that stupid rubber duck toy like it was a peace offering. He hadn't explained where he'd been. Just hugged me tightly and whispered how much he loved me. I remember how red his hands were from the cold. I'd wrapped him in my scarf and told him to stop being reckless. He had kissed my forehead and said, I'm going to meet your parents soon. I thought it was the beginning of our forever. I didn't know he had been drinking himself sick, chasing ghosts before falling into my arms. My stomach turned. I left the restaurant and walked aimlessly through the night. The sky above was velvet black, dotted with stars I couldn't name. I ended up near a convenience store, feet dragging, head foggy. My phone buzzed. A message from Rayanne. One of my friends isn't feeling well. Taking her to the hospital. Won't be able to pick you up tonight. Call me when you get home. I stared at the message. Her friend. Hospital. Lice. My thumb hovered over the screen. I didn't respond. I just stood there. 3 minutes later, the door to the convenience store opened. Rayanne stepped out. And next to him, wobbling slightly, holding onto his coat sleeve, was Sonia. She was drunk. Her hair was messy. Her cheeks were red from wine or cold or both. She giggled at something he said. He gently guided her toward a car parked nearby. I watched them. He hadn't seen me yet. Or maybe he had and he just didn't care. They got into the car, her head lolling onto his shoulder, and drove off. The taillights disappeared into the night like nothing had happened. Like I wasn't even real. My feet moved on their own. Down the curb. Across the street. Nowhere in particular. Just away. I didn't see the scooter coming. The crash wasn't loud, but the pain was instant. The front wheel slammed into my thigh, knocking me off balance. I landed hard on my side, cheeks scraping the pavement. My bag flew, my phone skittered into the gutter. The rider jumped off and rushed to me, panicking, apologizing, but I couldn't hear him. Everything was distant, muffled, like I'd slipped underwater. Pain bloomed in my knee and shoulder, but I didn't cry. I didn't even groan. I just lay there staring at the sky, breathing in the smoke and frost and silence. I woke up in a sterile white room. The hospital lights were too bright. A nurse dabbed disinfectant on my knee while I winced. "You're lucky," she said. "Just some scrapes and a mild concussion. No fractures." He adjusted my fore. "Aren't you Dr. Rayanne's girlfriend?" "Still his girlfriend?" The nurse's voice was casual, as if she were asking about the weather. But it landed like glass in my chest. She adjusted the fore-drip, eyes scanning the chart clipped to the end of my bed. "I've seen you before," she said with a little smile. "You used to bring lunch for Dr. Rayanne during night shifts, right? Always 2 boxes. You were famous in our break room for that." I nodded faintly but said nothing. She took the silence as awkwardness. "Maybe not anymore, huh?" That time I didn't even nod. I just stared up at the ceiling, following the cracks in the plaster like they were escape routes. I didn't know how to answer her. Still his girlfriend? I didn't know. When someone helps their ex out of a convenience store after lying about being at the hospital, when they don't reply to your texts but light up someone else's comment section with, "You're not," what are you supposed to call that? A relationship? A placeholder? An afterthought? The nurse's pager beeped and she stepped away. "If you need anything, just press the button." "Lily, right?" "Austin," I corrected automatically. She blinked. "Oh, right. Sorry." The door clicked shut behind her. And just like that, I was alone again. I turned my head and looked at the side table where someone had left my phone. The screen was cracked but still lit. A few new sweet potato notifications glowed at the top. I hesitated. Then I unlocked it. Sonia's profile was still public. I didn't know why I did it. Maybe some part of me wanted confirmation. Proof that I wasn't overreacting. That I wasn't crazy or jealous or insecure. Her posts weren't many. But they were long. Each one a little chapter. A little love letter to the past she'd clearly never let go of. We got together on our high school graduation day. He bought me a bracelet with money he earned delivering food. He used to ride his bike 2 hours just to bring me hot milk tea after class. He said, "Let's grow up and I'll marry you when we're ready." Photo after photo. Old concert tickets. A silver necklace. A blurry image of Rayanne holding an umbrella outside her dorm. Then a post dated 3 months ago. That was when it began again. I sent him a message. Just to say I passed by our school and tripped on the same step. I told him it hurt. Underneath was a screenshot of the message. "I just passed by our high school again," it read. "Tripped in the same place. It hurts like hell." There was no reply in the image. But her next sentence shattered me. 3 minutes later he responded. One word. Go. Go. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't sentimental. But it was permission. It was opening the door. She continued. "Since then we talk almost every day. He doesn't say much. But he always replies." There were screenshots. Casual messages. Dry replies from him. One of them read, "I'm heading into surgery. Don't message." Another, "You should eat." Then, Try the noodles at the corner shop. Less salty. I knew that shop. We used to go there after my late-night rehearsals. Rayan always said their food wasn't healthy enough. He'd sneak in boiled eggs to mix with the broth. That comment wasn't just familiarity. It was history. And then I saw it. One sentence tucked between the updates. He never blocked me. Not even once. Not when I first messaged. Not when I kept texting. Not when I said I missed him. I stared at that line for a long time. He never blocked her. Never muted her. Never even said please don't. Rayan was smart. He was efficient. He knew exactly how to distance himself when he wanted to. I'd seen him cut people out of his life with surgical precision. Cold, swift, final. But with her, he let her stay. He let her bleed into his days. He let her exist in the spaces I didn't even know were open. And I didn't even know we were sharing him. The room blurred. Not from tears but from memory. 3 years ago we met in the most unromantic way possible. Me clinging to my sprained ankle at a clinic. Him a final-year med student, flushed and flustered. I joked that he looked too clean-cut to be in trauma care. He smirked and said, I'm not in trauma. I'm in internal medicine. And just like that we were something. I chased him shamelessly at first. I brought tea, dumplings, tiny notes with terrible anatomy puns. He resisted. Then softened. Then let me in. He said I was the sunlight during his darkest exams. I said he was the calm in my chaotic world of choreography and cracked toenails. We were a quiet, steady rhythm. Or so I thought. Looking back now I wondered, was I filling in silence that wasn't mine to occupy? Was I building a future on a past he never truly buried? Even when he held me. Even when he whispered, I'm yours. Even when he showed up to meet my parents with trembling hands and a hopeful smile. Was part of him still hers? The nurse returned a little while later and checked the 4-line. Still hurting, she asked. I nodded. But I wasn't talking about my leg. I was talking about something deeper. She didn't ask again. Just scribbled something on the chart and left. I picked up my phone and stared at the cracked glass. At my reflection in the black screen when it dimmed. The girl who stared back at me was unfamiliar. Pale. Smudged mascara. Dry lips. A hospital gown hanging off one shoulder like a borrowed identity. Was I still his? Was I ever? Or was I just a space filler? A soft landing after heartbreak? I clicked the power button. The phone screen lit up again. I didn't open sweet potato this time. I didn't need more proof. I'd seen enough. He didn't stop her. Because part of him didn't want to. I was discharged the next evening. My head still throbbed in waves and my knee had stiffened into a dull, pulsing ache. But the physical pain was the least of it. The real injury was quieter, lingering in places the doctors couldn't bandage. Rayan hadn't come to the hospital. No surprise. I didn't call. Neither did he. Instead, I dragged myself home with a compression wrap on my knee, a bag of medications in one hand and my phone in the other, still cracked, still lighting up every hour with new activity. Sonia's post was still live. The ring. The wine glass. The hand I once held. All on display. When I entered the apartment everything was the same. My water bottle on the kitchen table. His half-dried white coat on the back of the chair. The faint scent of my lavender body mist and his sandalwood cologne woven into the curtains. We lived here. But now it felt like a museum of something already over. I sat on the couch, too exhausted to cry. Half an hour later the door opened with a soft click. I didn't look up from the couch. My leg was still wrapped from the hospital, my arms folded tightly around my ribs. Not from pain, but from the cold that only disappointment could bring. Rayan stepped inside, holding a paper bag and a cheap bouquet of white lilies, already wilting at the edges. His hair was still damp from the shower, probably from the gym or a late meeting, and his tie was half loosened like he wanted to look casually remorseful. You're home early, I said quietly. He stopped mid-step, his eyes darting to the bandage on my leg, the dull bruises climbing up my arms. He knew. Of course he knew. I heard what happened, he said, voice cautious. The hospital called when you were admitted. I was in the middle of an important board meeting, I couldn't get away. I stared at him for a long second. He set the flowers and cake on the kitchen counter, like this was a misunderstanding that could be fixed with sugar and apologies. You didn't call, I said. You didn't text. Not even once. I was going to, he said quickly. But they said it wasn't critical. You were conscious. Stable. Not critical? I repeated, laughing softly. So that's the threshold now? I have to be dying for you to show up. He frowned. Austin, don't make this dramatic. You know how these things are. I was stuck in that meeting for hours. I came as soon as I could. I stood up, my leg aching beneath me. You weren't in a meeting, Rayan. He froze. I saw you. He blinked. Saw me where? At the convenience store. With her. His mouth opened but no words came out. I tilted my head, voice low. You told me you were working late. Instead, you were helping your ex out of a store like you were still her knight in shining scrubs. I saw Sonia's post, I said. His shoulders stiffened. The pause between us felt like a blade suspended midair. In the photo, I said, she was wearing a ballet dress. The exact one you asked about. The one you spent days trying to find in the right size. You even called one of my colleagues asking which brand I liked. His mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. I shook my head slowly. Turns out all that effort wasn't even for me. Rayan stood up, rubbing the back of his neck like the conversation exhausted him. You're still mad about last night, he said, frustration creeping in. Austin, didn't we agree to talk about things directly instead of letting them fester? I got hit by a scooter, Rayan, I said softly. I was in the ER for hours. And you should have called me. I did. You just didn't answer. He ran a hand through his hair. I was helping someone. We all crashed at old Zhang's place after drinks. I didn't want to scare you by showing up late. My gaze was steady. That's funny. The hospital called earlier. Said you weren't on shift. And your coat smells like citrus soap, not alcohol. He blinked. That was the moment he realized I wasn't bluffing. I had checked. He was caught. But instead of apologizing, instead of owning it, Rayan did what so many men do when cornered. He turned it around. This is what I mean, he muttered. Every time something happens, it's a trial. I have to explain myself like I'm a criminal. You don't even give me space to breathe. I let out a laugh, low and bitter. You disappeared all night with your ex, I said. She's parading your ring on the internet like you're hers again. And I'm supposed to stay quiet and trusting while you bring home dead flowers and a leftover cake. His jaw clenched. 5 seconds of silence stretched between us, taut and breaking. Then he sighed. Austin, he said, tone dropping into something heavy, you know my work drains me. I don't always have the emotional bandwidth to give you what you want. I can't read your mind and I can't keep doing this. I tilted my head. Doing what? This, he snapped. These arguments. The suspicion. The overreactions. Maybe we need to rethink this relationship. The words landed like a slap. I didn't flinch. Instead, I stood up, slowly, one hand braced against the arm of the couch. My knee protested, but I ignored it. You want to rethink? I said. Fine. I turned and walked into the bedroom, grabbed a suitcase from the closet and started packing. He followed after me, stunned. What are you doing? What does it look like? He stepped forward. You're being impulsive. I folded a dress. No, Rayan. I've been patient. I've been loyal. I've been quiet when you needed space and supportive when you were stressed. What I haven't been until now is stupid. He scoffed, defensive now. You're blowing one night out of proportion. No, I said firmly. I'm seeing the pattern. He stared at me. I don't know what he expected. That I'd cry? That I'd beg him to stay? Instead, I zipped up my suitcase and placed it by the door. Rayan lingered in the doorway like a shadow that didn't belong anymore. You're really leaving? He said. I met his eyes. You left first, I said. You just stayed standing in the apartment. He didn't respond. Didn't stop me. Didn't ask for another chance. Eventually, he picked up his keys, muttered something under his breath and slammed the door behind him. I stood in the quiet that followed, heart pounding but dry-eyed. That was it. No apology. No answers. No goodbye. Just silence. Just a night that broke us. At first, I thought the silence after leaving Rayan would be the hardest part. It wasn't. The hardest part was watching my name become a trending hashtag overnight. 3 days after I walked out of our apartment, the storm hit. And it started with a single post. From Sonia. The photo was new. A dimly lit kitchen, warm orange lights casting a soft glow on Rayyan's back. He stood by the stove, stirring soup, his white shirt sleeves rolled up, the curve of his jaw visible but his face turned away. Caption. He always takes care of me. Even when he's tired. Even when others try to steal what was never theirs. It was vague. But the implication was sharp enough to cut. The comments section exploded like dry brush under fire. Are we really calling it stealing when they've been together for years? If she knew he was in a long-distance relationship and still chased him, that's on her. Dancers these days. Pretty faces, empty hearts. I stared at the screen, stunned. She was rewriting everything. Suddenly, I wasn't the girlfriend who supported Rayyan through med school, who stitched his lab coat and slept in hospital waiting rooms just to bring him hot dinner. No. Now I was the intruder. The seductress. The girl who lured him away while Sonia was abroad. She had flipped the entire narrative like it was hers to own. And the worst part? People believed her. By morning my inbox was flooded. My dance company's official account was being tagged in call-out threads. Comments flooded under my most recent performance clip. Corrupted mission case. Disgusting. She slept her way in. The dance world is rotten. I hope her contract gets cancelled. My chest tightened with each ping. They weren't just attacking my personal life anymore. They were coming for my career. Someone even found an old photo of me from my dance school days. Me sweaty, hair tied in a messy bun, stretching in the hallway. The post accused me of using personal favors to win a competition. It didn't matter that the photo was 5 years old. That there was no evidence. That it was a stretch so far it should have broken logic in half. The mob didn't care. The mob wanted blood. I shut my phone off and stayed in bed for the rest of the day, watching the ceiling like it might give me answers. But the real breaking point came that evening. My director called. Her voice was clipped, careful. We're not dropping you, she said. But the board's under pressure. We need a formal statement. I didn't know how to respond. My throat felt tight. I managed a choked, okay. Before she hung up, she added gently, we believe in you. Don't let this crush you. But that's the thing about lies. They don't need to be true to crush you. They just need enough people to believe them. Then something I didn't expect happened. My high school posted a video. It was from the year I'd applied to the dance academy, footage of the entrance exam finals. Caption read, merit speaks for itself. This was Austin, age 17. No connections. No favors. Just talent. I watched the grainy clip like I was watching someone else. There I was, barely grown, nerves shaking my legs, eyes determined. I moved through the set with everything I had. I remembered that performance. I'd cried afterward thinking I'd messed it up. But apparently, I hadn't. Within hours my academy followed suit. They uploaded a full cut of me winning the Peach and Plum Cup, one of the highest youth dance honors in the country. I was 18 then. The video showed me midair in a grand jeté, sweat gleaming, face focused like fire. The caption was simple. We don't speak often. But when we do, we speak with proof. The tide began to turn. Comments started shifting. You don't fake that kind of performance. She didn't cheat her way in. She worked for it. This is what jealousy looks like. The ex is trying to drag her down. But Sonia, she didn't stop. She posted a long comment beneath her latest video, full of veiled sorrow and faux humility. I never said she wasn't talented. I'm only questioning her character. You can be good at your craft and still have done something wrong. I've never lied. I only shared how it felt to watch someone else take what was mine. She played the victim so well even I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then she added this. I heard she used connections to get into the academy. I won't say more. People can judge. That was it. I snapped. I called Myra. She was my college roommate once, now a practicing lawyer who loved iced lattes and courtroom brawls. She picked up on the first ring. I was wondering when you'd call, she said. I need to sue her, I whispered. There was silence on the other end. Then, good. I've already started collecting. Within 24 hours we had everything. Screenshots of her posts. Time-stamped messages showing Rayyan and I were already dating when she claimed I stole him. Archived videos from school and competitions. And my full scholarship records and recommendation letters. But the most damning evidence? Her own sweet potato post. The one where she'd said, My ex is successful now. If I want to get him back, does that make me the other woman? That sentence, once meant to tug heartstrings, was now Exhibit A. I filed for defamation. And when I posted the notice on my profile, I pinned it at the top with one sentence. Lies don't become truth just because you speak them prettily. It was shared over 100,000 times in the first 2 days. I watched the comment section shift like wind through dry grass. She fought back. Respect. Lawsuit incoming. You love to see it. Not all girls cry in silence. Some bring receipts. Sonia's posts began disappearing one by one. Her account went private, then gone entirely. But I wasn't finished. I tagged her employer, a prestigious private school where she was still in probation. I included links to her public posts and the lawsuit. Let them decide whether someone like her belonged in front of students. I didn't want to destroy her. I just wanted her to stop destroying me. That night, for the first time in a week, I danced again. Not for a role. Not for anyone watching. Just for me. And when I looked at myself in the mirror afterward, sweaty, tired, eyes puffy from crying, I still looked like me. Not a villain. Not a victim. Just a woman who refused to be erased. The courtroom wasn't as grand as I imagined. It was small. Beige walls. A creaky air conditioner. The kind of place that felt like it had seen too many broken promises and not enough justice. I sat straight-backed in the front row, wearing the only blazer I owned. Myra sat beside me, calm and polished, her laptop open, files stacked in perfect order. Across from us sat Sonia, bare-faced, lips trembling, her lawyer whispering something in her ear that she clearly wasn't listening to. She looked younger than she did online. Smaller. Almost forgettable. But I didn't forget. I remembered every word she'd posted. Every lie. Every insinuation. I remembered waking up to 1,000 strangers dissecting my life like it was public property. I remembered the panic in my director's voice. I remembered the nurse in the ER asking, "Still his girlfriend?" No, I didn't forget. And now neither would she. The verdict came down clean and simple. The court finds the defendant guilty of public defamation and deliberate damage to the plaintiff's personal and professional reputation. Financial compensation is to be awarded. The defendant must also publicly retract and apologize within 10 working days. Myra squeezed my hand under the table. I didn't smile. Not out of spite, but because justice doesn't feel like joy. It feels like breath returning to a body you didn't know had been holding it for too long. Sonia didn't look at me as we left. And I didn't look back. 3 days later, I was at the studio early, the kind of early that only makes sense when you're trying to rebuild something from inside out. I hadn't even started stretching when the door opened. I didn't need to turn around. I knew that hesitant knock against the frame. Knew that cologne, subtle and expensive, lingering beneath hospital disinfectant. "Rayan," I said without turning. "This is a closed session." He stepped inside anyway, holding nothing but guilt in both hands. I finally turned to face him. He looked tired. Thinner. Like life had chewed him up and spat him back out in yesterday's suit. "I heard," he said. "About the ruling." "Of course you did." He hesitated. "Can we talk?" "You're already here." "Talk." He shifted his weight. Avoided eye contact. "She's not doing well, Austin," he said. "Sonia. Her mother messaged me. Said she hasn't eaten properly in days. That she's crying non-stop." I blinked slowly. "That sounds terrible." "I'm not saying what she did was right," he rushed. Maybe we could drop the public statement part of the ruling? Let the apology be private. Spare her some dignity." I stared at him. And then very calmly I asked, "Did she spare mine?" He flinched. "She tried to ruin my future," I said. "She dragged my name through filth. She turned my passion into a punchline. People called my years of training corruption. People tried to get me fired. And you want to spare her?" "She wasn't well," he said softly. "She still isn't. I think she spiraled." I stepped toward him until we were just a breath apart. "Rayan," I said, "do you know what spiraling looks like?" He swallowed. "It looks like getting hit by a scooter outside a convenience store while your boyfriend walks out with his ex. It looks like waking up in a hospital bed while your name trends as other woman. It looks like sitting silently while someone else hijacks your life, and then listening to the man you loved ask you to be understanding about it." His eyes dropped to the floor. I'm not angry anymore, I said. I just finally see you for what you are. He looked up confused. What am I? Split, I whispered. Stuck between your past and your present. And you know the worst part? You never really chose either. You just stood there hoping time would make the decision for you. He exhaled shakily. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I know, I said. You never mean anything, Rayanne. That's the problem. You don't lie. You don't cheat. You just leave the door open wide enough for someone else to walk in. And then you act surprised when they do. He looked like he wanted to say something, an apology, a defense, maybe even an excuse, but for once he said nothing. Good. I was done talking. After he left, I stayed on the studio floor for a long time. Not crying. Not angry. Just still. A strange kind of peace had settled in the quiet corners of my chest. I didn't need closure. I didn't want revenge. All I wanted was my life back. And I'd taken the first step. The first time I saw the headline, I blinked, twice, just to make sure I wasn't imagining it. Doctor injured in hospital, assault linked to debt scandal. I clicked the article. And there was Rayanne's name. The photo was old, from a conference he attended last year, but the story was recent. Brutally recent. Apparently, a group of men stormed the hospital lobby one afternoon, demanding to see a Dr. Rayanne, claiming he owed them money. The staff tried to intervene. Voices rose. Shoving ensued. Then someone pulled a knife. And just like that, his right hand was gone. Not literally, but slashed deep across the palm and knuckles. Nerves damaged. Tendons torn. He would recover, they said. But his career wouldn't. Surgeons don't get second chances with broken hands. The hospital issued a bland press release about security upgrades and staff safety, but everyone knew the truth behind the paper. And just like that, Dr. Rayanne, once the pride of his department, the rising star everyone bet on, was quietly let go. I didn't know what I felt. Pity? No. Not quite. Grief. That had passed. Maybe it was a strange kind of numb understanding. The way you watch a slow landslide you once tried to stop. You scream. You reach. You brace. But it falls anyway. Days later, the rest unraveled like clockwork. The debt, it turned out, belonged to Sonia's father, a long-drowning businessman who'd used Rayanne's name as leverage. Told his creditors his daughter was marrying a top surgeon. A golden future son-in-law, as one of them described him. They'd loaned money based on that illusion. When it shattered, they wanted blood. Rayanne never even saw it coming. Sonia. She vanished. One minute she was online, posting vaguely spiritual captions and filtered coffee shots. The next she was off-grid. But not before one final scandal hit. A tabloid leaked photos of her at a luxury boutique, locked in a screaming match with a woman twice her age. Slaps were exchanged. A necklace was yanked. Security had to pull them apart. The woman, it turned out, was the wife of a prominent real estate heir. Sonia had been the other woman this time. The irony nearly made me laugh out loud. She had tried to paint me as the homewrecker. The seductress. The girl who stole her happy ending. But in the end she walked into that role herself. And this time no one bought her tears. Her father was arrested 2 weeks later on tax evasion and fraud. His name was removed from every company board he once sat on. Their family villa was seized. And Sonia? Gone. No forwarding address. No new profile. No goodbye post. Just silence. I wish I could say I felt victorious. I didn't. Because this was never a game to win. Rayanne had lost his future. Sonia had lost her name. And I had almost lost myself. But almost didn't mean forever. I was still standing. Still dancing. And as fate would have it, still rising. One morning I got a call from an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered with a groggy, "Hello?" A crisp voice replied, "Miss Austin, this is the National Ballet Exchange Program. We reviewed your latest submission. We'd like to offer you a scholarship to study in Paris." I sat up straight in bed. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? "We were impressed by your recent performances. We think you'd be a perfect fit for our winter cohort. Training begins in November. Are you interested?" I didn't even pause. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, I am." That night I walked through the empty studio barefoot. The air smelled like resin and floor polish. My bruised knee ached from rehearsal, but I didn't mind. The pain was a kind of anchor. A reminder that I was here whole, breathing and real. I spun slowly, one foot sliding across the mirror-slick floor and thought about the past 3 years. About the boy I loved. The girl who envied me. The lies that nearly drowned me. The truth that saved me. And the future that now waited across the ocean. Paris. A city of light. A place to begin again. No one knew me there. And that, for once, was exactly what I wanted. Paris was nothing like I expected. It wasn't just the cobblestone streets or the sound of violins echoing through metro tunnels. It was the silence of unfamiliarity, the blank slate of being anonymous. No one here knew who I had been. Only who I was becoming. And that made all the difference. 2 years passed. Fast. Too fast sometimes. The early months were brutal. Language barriers, cracked toenails, missed cues, the bitter cold of European winters slipping through paper-thin ballet tights. But I kept showing up. Every morning I tied my hair into a bun, pointed my toes until they ached, and danced like it was the only language I'd ever learned. Eventually people noticed. First the instructors, then visiting directors, then sponsors, then headlines. By the end of my second year I wasn't just surviving in Paris. I was soaring. Asanamra they called me now. The girl who danced like every movement was a declaration. The girl who spun grief into grace. Tenacious. Fierce. Singular. On the evening of my debut lead in Giselle, I stood backstage in a glittering white costume, heart racing. This role had once belonged to girls I admired from afar. Now it belonged to me. The lights dimmed. My name was printed on the program. Top billing. As the overture began, a stagehand tapped my shoulder. "You have a visitor," he said. "Someone in the audience asked to see you before the show." I raised an eyebrow. "Who?" He handed me a name card. Idris Farouk. The name hit me like a soft echo from another world. Idris was one of Rayyan's high school friends. We'd only met once at a dinner years ago, but he had always been the quiet observer in the corner, the one who noticed what others ignored. I hesitated, then stepped toward the side hallway where he stood waiting. He looked older, slightly grayer, but his expression was the same, careful, watchful. "You really made it," he said with a smile. "They're all talking about you back home." I nodded. "I made it." He paused, studying me like he wasn't sure whether he should speak. Then he said softly, "You know, I never believed what Sonia wrote. But Rayyan, he didn't betray you. Not the way everyone thinks." I looked at him. For a long, quiet moment. Then I tilted my head, thoughtful. "I can forgive a past," I said. "But not when the past still lives in the present." He looked taken aback. Not because it was harsh, but because it was true. He nodded. "Fair enough." And then after a pause he asked, "Do you regret any of it?" I smiled. "No," I said. "Because if I hadn't lived it I wouldn't be here." He didn't argue. Just offered a gentle break a leg, and disappeared into the velvet seats. The call came from backstage. "Places." I took my position in the wings. The curtain was still down. The lights dimmed to nothing. And then, like a breath held and finally released, the music began. My cue. I stepped forward. Onto polished wood, into the golden glow of center stage, into a theater packed with strangers who'd never doubted me because they never knew the girl who almost gave it all up. I was no longer chasing shadows. No longer trying to defend myself against a story I didn't write. I was the story now. The dancer. The survivor. The lead. And as I moved through that first series of steps, my body light, my heart open, I felt something settle inside me. Not revenge. Not pride. Something quieter. Something truer. Peace. And in that moment I smiled to myself and thought, they tried to write me out of my own story. I rewrote it and became the spotlight. The end.